Well, hello everyone. I'm Dr. Krystosik. Better late than ever. I was just finishing up with a patient, and I always take time to make sure that I don't rush. So I'm sorry for being a few minutes late, but we're getting going right now and continuing with part two, how to be able to have more energy than China has rice and be able to live a long life in good health from birth until you go to the grave, hopefully in hundreds and beyond. If you follow the recommendations we're talking about from the first part last week and about the second part tonight, I think that you'll be able to get there and be able to really enjoy it along the way. Because most people, unfortunately, they get to the later years, the retirement years, and they end up suffering with chronic disease. And they end up taking medications and have surgical procedures, and they suffer needlessly. They have joint pains and they have all kinds of osteopenia, osteoarthritis, and they've got heart disease and they've got dementia and all the things that the people in the blue zones that I've been talking about for years have less than 1% of when they follow their traditional diets and lifestyle that they've been doing for generations after generation. So last week we kind of left off at the mid uh, 50s and 60-year-olds. And tonight I want to continue and talk about getting into the later into life, what you can do to help to prevent disease, stay healthy, stay active into your 50s and 60s and beyond. Your body begins to reveal how well you take care of it over the decades in those years. And for some, this is when symptoms like joint pain and slower recovery from the pains and injuries they might have, or from infections or things that they end up developing, or they end up with brain fog, becomes much more noticeable. And for others, it's when they realize they feel just as strong and sharp as they did years ago. And that's what I want for you, my friend. That's what's going to make the difference. And it comes down to lifestyle habits maintained in your midlife. Whether you've been actively preserving the muscles and protecting your brain and supporting your gut health, throughout the years. And that's what I want for you. And, even if you haven't, and if you found yourself, that you've dug yourself into a hole and you've got chronic disease, well, the good news is your body is resilient. Your body is self-repairing, and the good Lord has placed a power inside your body to heal itself. And that's what I want for you. And muscles are the key, and that's the key to longevity. It's the new longevity currency. It's one of the strongest predictors of independence into older age. That's your muscle strength. And not just your cardiovascular muscle, but all of your muscle. Your muscles preserves your metabolic rate, how well you use sugar and how you're managing your weight. It helps again with protecting against becoming frail in your older years. And after age 50, you can lose up to 1 to 2% of your mass of your muscle unless you're actively doing strength training and exercising. But here's the good news. Even starting resistance training exercises later in life can reverse decades of decline in your muscle strength. Now, there's research, lots of it to show. And then back in 2018, in the Journal of the British Medical Journal, that they found that higher grip strength was strongly associated with lower all-cause mortality, cardiovascular death, and even cancer death. The authors, what they found is that muscular strength may be as important as predictor of mortality as blood pressure. And unlike the age or like genetics that most people think is the predictor of age, strength is something that is a great predictor of how you're going to age, and it can improve your vitality and your health at any age. So now here's another key: the brain and the gut connection. That aging decline, that starts in your 50s and continues on and ends up with things like dementia? Well, it starts in the brain, but actually it begins in the gut. When you have a disrupted gut microbiome, that's bacteria in your gut that gets out of balance. When you have more harmful bacteria living in your gut and less of the healthy beneficial bacteria, that you're not going to end up having these beneficial bacteria produce what's called short chain fatty acid. These are powerful compounds which are really crucial for helping to reduce inflammation in your brain and support the neurotransmitters that are produced inside of your brain. And they're all dependent upon those short chain fatty acids. And functional medicine approaches brain health by first optimizing the gut health, balancing gut bacteria, repairing the intestinal lining, and feeding the microbiome, those beneficial bacteria, with fiber and fermented foods. Listen, my friend, don't get sucked into this high protein, even the crazy things like the carnivore diet. That is going to set you up for a prescription for disaster because your body needs fiber. Now, these gurus on the internet who are pushing this high protein, high meat diets and the carnivore diet, they'll say, oh, yeah, your body's capable of making ketones out of animal protein, out of proteins. And yes, they're right, it can, but it overworks the body, it overtaxes the body, and over time, it puts a great strain on your kidneys and your liver and your heart, and just is going to cause devastation in your body. Now, when it comes to brain health, again, there's lots of research. Back in 2021, in the Frontiers of Aging of Neuroscientists, found that gut imbalances, we call that dysbiosis, is linked to inflammation in the brain. The cognitive skills, the mental skills are decline. If you have that happening inside your brain, you're going to be at higher risk for Alzheimer's disease, dementia, and that deterioration of your brain cells. These studies, they reviewed and concluded that a diet based on getting fiber and probiotics, and again, you can get improvement of the cognitive skills in aging if you do these things. Now, here's another thing, your hormone balance in later life. As we age, both men and women experience hormonal shifts, lower estrogen and progesterone for women and testosterone, even for women. That can also happen in men. That accelerates the muscle loss, increases fat storage, especially around the belly, weakens your bones, and it affects your moods. You can end up with anxiety and depression and dementia and all kinds of progressive degenerative chronic diseases. Now, functional medicine takes a personalized approach using lifestyle, giving you targeted supplements when they're needed. I like food as medicine first. And sometimes you have to replace the hormones by getting bioidentical hormones to maintain optimal function and vitality. But in general, you could do it with food first. Now, back in 2019, there was a study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology, and they showed that the metabolism of your body, the balance of the hormones in your bodies, especially in older adults, was associated with better bone density. So when your hormones were in balance, you had better bone density, you had improved mood, greater physical function. So the authors of this study, they emphasized that lifestyle factors like eating a whole food diet, plant-based primarily, exercising, and stress reduction can significantly influence hormones and the regulation of those throughout the body. And getting an anti-inflammatory diet is very important. Nutrition for healthy aging is very important, especially at this stage in your life. Inflammation controls your overall metabolism and it becomes the cornerstone of disease prevention. If you reduce inflammation, you're going to prevent disease. And diets emphasizing anti-inflammatory foods like wild-caught fish that are high in the omega-3 fats, and getting things like flaxseed oil and chia seeds and other good, healthy seeds and nuts that has these healthy oils, and eating berries like blueberries and raspberries and blackberries and even strawberries, and then eating lots of fresh vegetables, especially the dark leafy greens like romaine lettuce and spring greens, and eating broccoli and those type of things, getting extra virgin olive oil and eating nuts and seeds and beans and legumes. They're actually, these type of foods, it literally mirrors the eating patterns of the 5 blue zone regions that I've been talking about, not only today, but for years. You know, back in 2010, I wrote a book called Carbs from Heaven and Carbs from Hell. And I apologize, it wasn't 2010. I wrote it in 2002. But in 2010, National Geographic did a study on the blue zones, and they found that they were the healthiest populations on the planet. Well, I actually, in my book in 2002, had maps and actually talked about in great detail about the blue zone people. And that was 8 years before National Geographic did. So these anti-inflammatory foods not only protect the heart and protect you from cancer and from brain degeneration, but they also help joint health. So you don't end up having arthritis and having, brittle bones and end up with osteoporosis. Now, that Mediterranean diet that many people talk about, it's one of the most well-researched diets on the planet, and that's part of the blue zones. And a landmark study back in 2013 that they found in the New England Journal of Medicine that the Mediterranean diet, when you supplemented it with extra virgin olive oil and raw nuts and seeds and beans and legumes and lots of fresh fruits and vegetables, it reduced the risk for major cardiovascular events by over 30% compared to the low-fat diet that conventional medicine often recommends. So getting fatty foods from the wild-caught fish is really, really good. Sardines, wild-caught salmon, and eating things like the halibut, just for the hell of it, and making sure that you don't eat that too often because it's a bigger fish and it acquires and accumulates a lot more mercury. So get it wild caught, try to get it from up in the cold waters of Alaska, and you're going to be really getting some good, healthy anti-inflammatory foods. So now, the eating pattern of the blue zones, stick to that, my friend, because you're going to really be getting the wisest choice. Don't get sucked into those low-carb keto diets, paleo diets, and now the most bizarre, the carnivore diet. It's hard for me to even fathom that people are getting sucked into that. These influencers on the internet, they're entertaining people with not science, but with just lies that are leading people down a destructive road that's going to lead to chronic disease and early death. Now, you want to be able to get into retirement, that window of your life, so that you can enjoy the retirement years in good health and gain the most precious commodity, and that is time with family and friends in good health, not suffering in a hospital, in and out of surgical procedures, and having to take medications, a basket full of them. You can help to decline the aging process, accelerate good health, and help to extend your life and your health span, that is, by doing the things that I'm talking about. The most successful people who slow down the aging process, They stay engaged, learn new things. They're curious. They want to keep an open mind and look at the research, and they stay physically active. Retirement in the blue zone isn't about withdrawal from life. It's about becoming deeper engaged with community, with purpose, and daily physical activity. Now, I don't want you to overlook the fact that having a community of people is vital. That's one of the key principles of the blue zone secret is a community, a very, very strong knit community of people that are like-minded, family and friends who are supporting each other to eat healthy foods, to live a healthy, active lifestyle. And so what I want to encourage you is to get active in a community. And I have formed a very special community of like-minded people, just like you, who want good health. And it's called the Gut 911 Prescription Community. And right now, the first 100 people can get in there for free, a lifetime access for free. Now, after the first 100, it's going to be a prescription model. It's going to be a subscription model. That's what I meant. You're going to end up having to pay not an exorbitant amount, but you're going to have to pay for a monthly subscription. So I encourage you, take advantage, get into it free for now, and you're going to be able to provide your health for years to come. Now, once you cross over that age of 65, when people think about retirement, your health priorities shift from building the reserves to building independence. You want to have health you become independently healthy. And at this stage, preventing falls and maintaining mobility and keeping your mind sharp. And those things need to take center stage. This is also when chronic disease like heart disease and diabetes and dementia, that's when they start brewing. And you know what? You don't have to have that. They'll show themselves if you just neglect your body and don't live a blue zone lifestyle. And functional and lifestyle medicine, it really focuses on helping people to prevent these signs of early aging and getting into early intervention rather than waiting for the crisis to happen. Now, balance and mobility is the key as you get into your older years because they cause a lot of injury and a lot of independence in older adults. Balance and mobility training, things like Tai Chi and single leg stands and various other things like riding on a bicycle and jogging and just doing strength work and working out with light weights even. This is going to really help you to maintain your balance. And the people in the blue zones, they naturally challenge their balance daily by walking on uneven terrain, walking in the hillsides, and they squat and they climb steps, without railings into their 90s and 100 and beyond. So these habits are going to help to make sure that your neuromuscular coordination is going to be sharp into a ripe old age. Now, in 2019, there was a meta-analysis. Now, that's a study where they take multiple studies, and they combine it into one. So there may be 10, 15, 20 different studies, and they put it in and combine all of those research findings into one paper. And they found in the British Medical Journal that people who dwelled in communities that were like-minded, like the Blue Zone community, like my Gut 911 prescription, and people who participated in regular balance and strength training, they reduced their risk of falls by up to 25%. 25%, that's a major change. And they concluded that targeted exercise programs are the cornerstone of independence later on in life. Now, protecting your bones so you don't end up with osteoporosis. Osteoporosis and brittle bones doesn't have to be an inevitable part of aging, which it does here in this country. If you do weight-bearing exercises and get adequate levels of vitamin D, And by the way, speaking of vitamin D, I don't know if you knew this, but I recommend at least 10,000 international units of vitamin D per day. And some people may say, well, Dr. Krystosik, that's a lot of vitamin D. Well, did you know that going outside and being exposed to sunshine for just 20 minutes will get you 10,000 international units of vitamin D? So don't be afraid of getting that kind of a dose of vitamin D. And there's research to show that people who take that level of vitamin D don't end up with the flus and the colds that so many people end up with. And there was never a recorded case of somebody who took 10,000 international units of vitamin D every single day who ended up with COVID. They just never got it. Now, taking magnesium and calcium is also important. And make sure that you get really the best forms. When you get to be over 65, you should be taking calcium hydroxyapatite. That's a very special form of calcium that helps to actually reverse osteoporosis. I can say reverse because one of the suppliers of a product that I recommend to all of my patients, one of the suppliers, they were actually challenged by the FDA in saying, you can't tell people you're going to cure osteoporosis. You have no proof. Well, they went to court and they actually won the case against the FDA, and they proved that the calcium hydroxyapatite actually reversed osteoporosis. So calcium and magnesium, like magnesium glycinate, very good form of magnesium. That is what you want to use. Don't use magnesium citrate because that'll end up causing you to have looser stools if you take too much. So avoid excess alcohol and avoid smoking because those are critical factors that will really help to degenerate your bones. In functional medicine, bone health is also tied to gut health. Oh, what do you know? Gut health always keeps on cropping up. Without proper digestion and absorption, even the best diet in the world won't build strong bones. So you got to maximize the absorption and utilization of nutrients, and that happens with a healthy gut. Back in 2020, there was actually another review in the journal called Nutrients, and they found that the gut microflora, that's the bacteria living inside the gut, we call the microbiota, it influenced calcium absorption and bone metabolism. Consider what I just said. The gut bacteria, the healthy gut bacteria, if you've got it living inside your gut, it helps to increase calcium absorption and your bone metabolism and keeping your bones strong. So getting probiotics from fermented foods, that's my favorite, and getting prebiotics by eating a high fiber diet. They're linked to improved bone density, especially in postmenopausal women. Now, cognitive fitness after the age of 65, that's your mental capacity. Just like your muscles, your brain needs exercise. Learning new skills and engaging in complex hobbies and maintaining social interaction, they all build cognitive reserve. The brain's ability to adapt and compensate for age-related changes is dramatic. In one of the blue zones in Okinawa, they found that centenarians often practice calligraphy. They learn new songs or they play traditional instruments well into their hundreds and beyond. So practice these principles. Mimic these things with the people in the blue zones. Maintain your mental faculties as well and keep a healthy, strong mind and bones as well. Back in 2018, there was a study done in the Journal of Gerontology, and what they found is that older adults who engage in mental stimulating activities for at least 15 hours per week, they had significantly better memory and performance of mental and cognitive skills, and they were able to process things in their mind quickly, and they found that over 5 years, that they were much more inclined to gain those skills and keep those mental faculties over a 5-year period in the people compared to the people who didn't. Now, the role of purpose, that's significant. In the blue zones, people have a deep sense of purpose. Purpose in life is key. You've got to have goals and you have to have direction and something to look forward to. You know, in Okinawa, they call it ikigai. That means a reason for being. Purpose reduces stress, improves your emotional resilience, my friend, and gives you a reason to get out of bed every single morning. You're going to jump out of bed with vigor and just excitement if you have a purpose. You have something to look forward to. In fact, having a strong sense of purpose is linked to lower risk of heart disease, stroke, depression, anxiety, and all the things in older adults. Now, purpose and longevity has been studied, as I said, many studies. And in 2014, in the Psychological Science Journal, they followed more than 6,000 adults for over 14 years. And they found that individuals with a strong sense of purpose had a 15% lower risk from death from all causes, regardless of age, gender, or retirement, and the status that they held in life. Now, nutrition into your 70s and beyond. You know, as appetite often declines with age for a lot of people, and every bite counts because the nutrients that you need to get need to be dense nutrients. And if you're eating and living the lifestyle I'm talking about, you're going to have a much better appetite. And if you eat things like soups and stews and smoothies, you're going to get nutrient dense foods that are going to be easier to absorb. So if you've neglected your health and you want to rebound and you want to regenerate your health, then eat the things that I'm talking about because you're going to get better absorption from the soups and the stews and the smoothies and the energy drinks and fermented foods. And, you know, these things are going to make a huge difference in getting healthy fats from things like flaxseed oil and omega-3 fats. And getting micronutrients are going to be a huge factor. You know, in Sardinia, Italy, that's one of the blue zones, the elderly population who regularly enjoyed minestrone soup, one of my favorites. It's made with beans and vegetables and olive oil and herbs. It's a simple anti-inflammatory powerhouse. Oh, and by the way, if you go out to eat, go to Olive Garden. I don't have any connection with Olive Garden, but I'm telling you, Olive Garden has one of the best minestrone soups that you can get out there in a restaurant. And you can get their salad and their soup special. Just don't eat their bread because their bread is made with refined carbohydrates. Just eat their soup and their salad and you'll be good to go. And it'll fill you up. I'm telling you. And you can have as much as you want. Just don't overeat. Chew your food well. So reversing the disease process at any age is definitely possible. And I've watched it happen with hundreds of my patients. You know, one of the myths about aging is that once you're diagnosed with a chronic disease, it's too late to reverse it. You're just going to have to rely on medications or surgical procedures. My friends, that is a huge lie. I have seen many patients who have reversed the aging process, including dementia and heart disease and inflammatory bowel disease and autoimmune diseases by taking an active role under the guidance of a functional medicine physician like myself. And they've shown over time again, things like even type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, and even the stages of heart disease can be improved and reversed. Dr. Dean Ornish, one of the world's leading authorities on lifestyle medicine, he's found that you can actually remove the clogged arteries, the plaque that's in clogged arteries, by diet and lifestyle, by eating a plant-based diet and a healthy lifestyle with getting mindset techniques like prayer and meditation and exercising and a healthy diet. So if you restore the gut health on top of that, you're going to really help to your body to adapt and heal and restore even in your later years. Now, there was definitely, as I mentioned, you've got to check out Dr. Dean Ornish's work. His work is so well respected by the medical community, and he's shown that the regression of arterial blockages over a 5-year period in the control group, that those people who ate healthy, did the mindset exercises and strategies, exercise, they had reversal of the heart disease. And those people who followed the average American lifestyle, their blockages worsened. So the healing power that you'll find in, again, community. I can't emphasize that enough. People who mentor you and share their wisdom, again, and who participate in the traditions that people have been following for thousands of years, and getting emotional support and helping to prevent loneliness, and getting accountability for your habits. That's what you're going to get in the Gut 911 prescription community. So don't miss out on that. That social connection is a powerful medicine. So, my friends, I'm telling you, we here on the other side of medicine are leading the way for helping people to not only reverse disease, but to live a long life in good health. And I encourage you to come back every single week. Not only do I give presentations and do the podcast myself, but I have world-class guests like Dr. Dean Ornish and people who are well-known and well-respected, like Dr. Murray, who's all over the internet, and Dr. I'm trying to think of some of the other people. I had Dr. Linus Pauling on my podcast. He's he's no longer living, but one of the most well-respected scientists of all times. He was the only scientist who had won 2 Nobel Prizes, one for science and the other one was for peace. That was Dr. Linus Pauling. And he became a personal friend of mine and tried to save my dad's life. And that was a sad story because my dad was in the hospital, had acquired septicemia, which is a bacteria infection that ran through his whole body. It was acquired in the hospital, which is very common, by the way. And Dr. Linus Pauling went to the hospital administrators via phone and tried to convince them that the high doses of vitamin C intravenously given to my dad would reverse his septicemia, the infection in his blood. They wouldn't do it. And then it took them 3 days to finally convince him to do it. And by that time, my dad actually died on the 3rd day when they finally agreed to let him do that. So my friends, I have been leading the way in natural medicine since 1986. And I want to encourage you, stick with us. Everything we do is science-based. You're going to get the world's class experts in natural medicine based on science, evidence-based. And again, I always tell people there's 3 principles that I operate on every single day in everything I do, whether it's with my patients, on my podcast, and my social media. Common sense, number 1. We've lost common sense. We've lost common sense. When we have people telling us to eat a carnivore diet or a keto diet, a paleo diet, eating all this saturated fat, it doesn't make common sense. The healthiest populations around the world have been eating very low animal protein diets for thousands of years. It's only a craze that's been happening in the last 25 to 30 years. And then science, evidence-based natural medicine. Everything I do is based on peer-reviewed studies that are grounded in really good scientific studies. And then cooperation with nature. You cannot be following nature and following the principles that God has laid out for us, and our bodies heal itself if we follow these principles. So, my friends, until next week, may you take charge of your health, take a proactive role, get involved with a community of people, whether it's our Gut 911 prescription, whether it's, myself or somebody else that you find that you really connect with. Just do it. Get involved with a community of like-minded people. And by the way, you could take advantage of my limited time only uh, consultation that I'm providing at a reduced rate. And you can go to my website, theothersideofmedicine.com, and get a 20-minute consultation for a very low price. Just go there and you'll see what it's on how much it is on the website, and you'll see and listen to all